What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my NFL DFS showdown picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and we have a very ugly slate, to say the least. We have the Steelers being 14.5-point favorites with only a 40.5-point game total. And what I'm going to be struggling with personally, and what I'm sure a lot of people are going to be struggling with, is finding that one Bengal to get in your lineup with 5 different Steelers. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about some value. We're going to talk about some guys I like up top. And as we go through it, going to make an example cash build. But yeah, this slate should be fun. It should be interesting. But like I mentioned, the hardest part is going to be finding a Bengal because a lot of them are way overpriced and they have a terrible matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers here. So with that said, before we get into it, if you guys can leave a like, as always, helps out a ton. Subscribe if you have not yet. Again, helps out a ton. Trying to reach that 10,000 subscriber mark, hopefully in the near future. So let's get started. Let's break down this slate, starting with Ben Roethlisberger up top, and I think he is a must-play in all formats here, no matter what. I think he's a good captain play as well because he has multiple touchdowns to multiple different guys. And yeah, captain is really expensive for him, but I do think there's some value that we'll talk about. And what I like about Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers in general, especially for this play, is that they throw the ball a ton. Even when they're up ahead, even when they should be probably running the ball a little bit more, milking the clock, they still continue to pass the ball. You can see it there against Buffalo, 37 passing attempts. That was probably one of the lowest of the year for him. Washington, 53. Baltimore, 51. Jacksonville, 46. So he throws the ball a ton there. So yeah, give me Ben Roethlisberger here in pretty much all of my lineups, honestly. In the showdown slates, you do want to attack these quarterbacks, and Roethlisberger's in a very, very good spot against the Bengals, and lots of guys to pair him with as well, so we'll talk about those. So gonna plug him in right here. Going down, DIONTAE Johnson. So this play is really interesting. So he did get benched for a little bit. He dropped like 3 or 4 balls. Mike Tomlin said he's going to give him a clean slate, but if he does continue to drop balls, he's probably going to get benched again. So for that reason, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a high-risk play here, and the dude's like, I don't want to say he's injury prone, but he's been injured a ton throughout the year. So this is kind of like a high risk play, but when he does play, when he's not injured, when he's not hurt, when he's not dropping balls, he's a very good play just because of the amount of volume he receives. He's going to get the most targets out of any other passing option on the Steelers. For that reason, I'm very intrigued. I am going to have a decent amount of Johnson, one of my favorite plays as well, but just got to think, like, what happens if he does drop a ball? I mean, he's probably going to be benched, so something to think about there, but I do like Johnson. Not going to use him for this lineup specifically, but he is one of my favorite plays. I think he has a ton of upside if he can stay healthy in this game, and if he cannot, drop passes like he has been, and he's been dropping a ton of passes as of late. So going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, good matchup, all that good stuff. Juju Smith-Schuster, someone that kind of struggled bad early in the year, but has been doing a lot better as of late. 17.5 DraftKings points against Buffalo, 9.8 against Washington, 17.7 against Baltimore, and he's getting his targets. The matchups there, 10,000. I like it. I mean, a lot of these plays up top, Juju, DIONTAE Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger, I do like a ton. Still averaging 14.5 DraftKings points. It's kind of surprising because he had such a bad start to the year. But yeah, he seems to be back now, and you can't ask for a better matchup here against Cincinnati. And like I said, Steelers are going to be passing the ball a ton. Even when they're up ahead, they're still going to be passing the ball. And for that reason, I'm going to be plugging in Juju. I like him a lot. Going down, Joe Mixon, he's going to be on the IR, not playing. Chase Claypool, 8,600. I like this play a lot because, basically just because of the price. I think he has the same amount of upside as a DIONTAE Johnson, as a Juju Smith-Schuster. Not going to get as much targets as them, but still he's going to have that good matchup against the Bengals. And just the discount for me is what's going to do it here. And he's priced like at 8,600 here, maybe because he's not been doing great the last couple games. 4.5 DraftKings points against Buffalo, 5.8 against Washington. But we all know he has that upside. He has that boom upside as well. He scored like 45 DraftKings points earlier in the year, and he's not going to do that or nothing. But I do think he has like multiple touchdown upside in this Steelers offense. It's going to throw the ball a ton. So give me Chase Claypool. Basically, why I like him is the price difference of the top guys there, and just a cheapish option for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Going down and getting into our first Bengal that we'll talk about, and it's going to be Tyler Boyd. And honestly, it's so tough to, first of all, play a Bengal, but you have to play at least one, and it's extremely tough to pay $8,400 for a Bengal. Ryan Finley at quarterback, probably the worst matchup you can ask for against the Steelers. So honestly, I'm not probably going to go up here and pay that much for a Bengal. I do think Boyd's very overpriced. Yes, he's a very good player, but when you're having Ryan Finley throw to you, going against a tough Steelers defense there with such a low total. It's really hard to go up and get Tyler Boyd here. So I'm not interested. I don't know how owned he's going to be. I'm assuming many people are going to do the same and not go up there and get Tyler Boyd. But yeah, I don't think there's much upside there. He's going to have to get like a touchdown to really pay off that value. And honestly, I don't see the Bengals scoring much at all here. So not going to go much to Boyd. Ryan Finley, and this is interesting because typically you do want to target these quarterbacks on the showdown slates, but man, you can't ask for a worse matchup against the Steelers. Ryan Finley, I don't know. I'm probably not going to get to it much. I do think that the 8,000 is intriguing just because it's a quarterback, but how well is he really going to do? It's really hard to see him getting multiple touchdowns, even if maybe one touchdown. It's hard to see him getting, but he probably does score. But even then, if he does score like a touchdown, is it going to go in the optimal lineup? I don't think so at 8,000. So I'm probably not going to get here, but it is something to think about. A quarterback showdown slate, 8,000. It's interesting, but man, Ryan Finley, I don't really like the matchup at all, so probably going to pass here, and I get my Bengals exposure elsewhere. So the Steelers' defense is very intriguing here, 7,200, and typically I do not like paying this much for a defense, and for them to get on the optimal lineup here, they're probably going to have to score, and is it possible? It's definitely possible at 7,200. Multiple sack upside, multiple interception upside, fumble recovery, all that stuff. I do think they can get multiple turnovers here. It's just, can they find the end zone? I think there's a chance they can for sure. I mean, great matchup here against the Bengals, Ryan Finley. So I actually like the Steelers quite a bit at 7,200. I'm not going to go crazy with it or nothing because if they don't score, they're probably not going to hit the optimal. But even then, if they're going to get multiple sacks, turnovers, all that stuff, I do think they're safe. I do think it's a fine cash game play. But for tournaments, yeah, I think it's fine, especially with the low-scoring game here. I do think it has a chance to be optimal, but you do want that touchdown to probably really break the slate with the defense here. All right, going down. T. Higgins again, 6,800. It's still too expensive for me. I do think that there's not much upside here with Higgins. Finley throwing to him, averaging 14.5 DraftKings points per week. But a lot of that was with Joe Burrow and all that. So probably not going to go to Higgins. I do want to get my Bengals exposure elsewhere. So now getting into some more Steelers here. James Conner, 6,600. So he is questionable. And honestly, I'm not the coaches or anything, but if I was them, you're in a spot where you should win. Going against the Bengals here, you should be up. I would probably rest James Conner in this game, or even if they get out ahead early, I would probably start to rest James Conner in this game. I just don't see the reason to. You're huge favorites. You should win this game, and you have some decent backup running backs, so I would probably rest James Conner. So I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. I do not know yet, but if he does play, I love the price, I love the matchup, but what I'm worried about is if they do get out ahead, they probably are going to pull James Conner, take it easy on him, and as they should. I do agree with that. So it's interesting. I will have some James Conner. It's not something I'm going to go too crazy on, but like I said, there are some concerns with the injury, and they should be resting him in this game because I don't really see the point of them playing a ton of snaps in a game that they should be up, they should be winning. So I don't know if he is out, it's going to open up some opportunities, and maybe he will be out. But if he does play, I'd just be a little bit cautious, and he's probably going to gain a lot of ownership if he does play as well. So tough play there. We really don't know what the coaches are going to do. We don't know if they're going to limit him. We don't even know if he's going to play yet. So look out for that. But I like Eric Ebron a ton, 6,400. So the Bengals have given up the second most DraftKings points to opposing tight ends. You get a huge discount off of the other pass catchers, and I know he doesn't have the upside of a Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's been playing very well, averaging 9.8 DraftKings points, 7 DraftKings points against Buffalo, 13.8 against Washington, 12.4 against Baltimore. He's doing fairly good, getting a decent amount of targets. I see that 11 targets in Week 13, 11 in Week 12. And I'm sure that they all know that the Bengals are really, really bad against, covering the tight end. So I do think they'll attack with EBRON here quite a bit, and they have been using him a lot. So at 6,400, I actually like that a ton. I like the discount you're getting off the top guys. And I'm going to be plugging him into captain here, one of my favorite captain options. And I think you can use any of these couple Steelers as captains. I think Ben at captain's fine. I think Juju at captain's fine. I think Claypool at captain's fine. I think Deontay Johnson at captain's fine. And Eric Ebron is probably the other captain I'd use, but those 5 I like a lot. All right, going down to Benny Snell Jr. And yeah, if James Conner does not play, I think it puts Snell in a very good spot here. And like I always say, like the Steelers throw the ball a ton, but maybe they do get up ahead a ton and start running the ball. That would definitely benefit Snell. He probably has some decent touchdown upside as well. But we got to wait and see if Connor plays or does not play. And like I said, if Connor does play, and they do start to rest him or they just really limit him, which they probably should in this game, I think Snell can even have some upside. And if Connor does play, look out for it, because that could make Snell very low owned. And maybe they don't play Connor as much. Maybe they do limit him. And at that point, Snell at low ownership at 6,200, that's not a bad look at all. So look out for that. But this Steelers backfield in general, and even the Bengals backfield we're talking about, very interesting backfield this week. But I do think Snell's fine, even if Connor does play, honestly. All right, going down. Giovanni Bernard, man, so this Bengals backfield is so ugly here, but Bernard, I guess he fumbled in his last game, got benched for a little bit, but I do expect him to be back to that starting role here. And as you can see, he's got that starting spot with Mixon being out, but he has done absolutely nothing with it. But in a game where they're 14.5-point underdogs, they should be coming from behind. There is pass catching upside with Bernard. I mean, you really expect him to do a lot more with that starting role. And he's had some solid matchups against New York, against Dallas, and he hasn't done anything with them. But yeah, like I mentioned, he did fumble his last game and he was benched. So as long as he can hold on to the ball, I think he'll be fine here. And at 5,600, I actually like that price a lot. But man, this Bengals backfield is so ugly, and the matchup's so ugly, but you got to go with one Bengal. And I think Giovanni Bernard's going to be that one Bengal for me in this lineup in specific, but I'm not in love with it whatsoever. I'm not in love with any of these Bengal plays, but I do think he's going to get some solid touch amount. I think he's going to get some solid targets, so for that reason, I'm going to plug him in. What I do like is them being such big underdogs, should be coming from behind, leading to pass catching upside. All right, going down a little bit. AJ Green, 5,400. So this is an interesting play, but he's so inconsistent. Like, he can go out there and score 0 points. He's done it multiple times this year, just going out there and literally not catching a ball. And that's kind of what you can expect from Green, a lot of games here, but 5,400 is intriguing. He did have 7 targets, 6 receptions last week, 62 yards, and a touchdown. 18.2 DraftKings points. I think he's fine at 5,400, just because the price is so cheap, but don't be shocked if he goes out there and pulls a 0, especially with Finley at quarterback, and especially against a Steelers defense who is very, very good here. All right, going down, and yeah, James Washington, 4,400. So he did get an increase of snaps with Deontay Johnson dropping those balls. Could that happen again? Maybe if Deontay Johnson drops like one ball. I feel like he's on a really short leash because he's been dropping a ton lately. So maybe Washington does get some extra run here, and he has a deep threat. He has some decent upside. I think he's one of those like boom or bust players. And yeah, been doing solid in the last couple of weeks. 11.9 DraftKings points against Buffalo, 16 against Washington. The problem is he's not going to get on the field all that much. But like I said, if Johnson does drop a ball, Washington could get some extra playing time here. But yeah, I think Washington at 4,400. I do think there's some solid upside. But like I said, it's boom or bust. He's going to either go out there and maybe score a touchdown, or he's going to score like a couple DraftKings points. For that reason, I'm going to plug him into this lineup just because of the price. And I do think there is some upside in a game that they should be out ahead, throwing the ball nonstop. Yeah, so give me Washington here at 4,400. I like it a lot. All right. Bengals tight end Drew Sample, I think he's okay, averaging 5.2 DraftKings points, 4 targets in Week 14, 7 in Week 13. I think he's fine if you do want to go with Sample in your lineup, but I'm not all that interested in it. Very bad matchup against the Steelers. Not much to say there. The Steelers, the kickers here, if I was to go with any kicker, it would be Boswell. Like I said, they're 14.5-point favorites, and he should be kicking some field goals. Obviously, he had 1 DraftKings point last week against Buffalo, but yeah, he should do fine. I do think there's some better options down low, or I'd rather not have them in my lineup, but I think he's fine if you really want to go with the kicker. It'd have to be on the Boswell side. You don't want to play the Bengals kicker whatsoever with them being such big underdogs, and I don't see them scoring all that much. So Boswell, if anything. Going down the Bengals defense, you don't really want to touch them in a game that they're such big underdogs. Bad matchup against the Steelers offense, and the Bengals defense in general just so bad, averaging 2.8 DraftKings points. And yeah, there's not much down here. P. Ryan at 1,400, I guess, is interesting. Should have some pass catching upside. Got a couple targets last week, 10 rushing attempts, but As we know, Bernard did fumble the ball, and that's why they gave Piron a lot more run there. Same thing with Williams here. He had 12 rushing attempts last week, but we got to remember that was because Bernard did fumble the ball. Do not expect him to get that same amount of playing time this week, unless Bernard does fumble the ball again, but he's probably not going to. So, yeah, some really ugly plays down here. There is not much. I guess the only guy I want to talk about for value, and that is going to be Jaylen Samuels here. And like I mentioned earlier, Connor, like I said, I'm not the coach or anything, but I think that they probably should, limit James Conner in this game, in a game they should be winning out ahead, or, even just roll him out. And I don't know if they're going to do that yet, but if they do roll out James Conner, I think Jaylen Samuels at 800 is going to be a very, very good play. Last week did have 4 targets, and 3 receptions. Even if Connor does play, I do think Jaylen Samuels is in play at $800. You really don't need much. Maybe come there, get a couple, passing attempts, and yeah, they should be. I mean, you would expect them to not, go crazy on James Conner and, not run him all that much. And even at 800, get a couple receptions for Jaylen Samuels. And he definitely is one of my favorite value plays because there really isn't much down here. So, Vance McDonald, no thank you. And, yeah, that's about it, man. I mean, there's not much down here. Like, there's not many good plays in general. You're going to have to find one of those Bengals, Piron, Williams. I mean, there's not much. So, yeah, like I said, the favorite value play is going to be Jaylen Samuels. I do think he'll be popular. Even if Connor does play, I think he's in play just at $800. So final build here, we have Eric Ebron, 9,600 tight end. I liked a lot. The Bengals give up a ton of DraftKings points to opposing tight ends. Ben Roethlisberger, I think he is a must-play in this game. Juju Smith-Schuster, I like him a lot. I like all these Pittsburgh pass catchers a lot. Claypool has a lot of upside, 8,600. I like the price discount off of the top guys. Giovanni Bernard, going to be the starting running back, going to be getting pass catches. Should be coming from behind, leading to more pass catching upside. Hasn't done much with it yet, but he's going to be getting some decent playing time. James Washington, 4,400, kind of a boomer bust player. He can either go out there and get you a 20-point game, or he can go out there and get you a couple-point game, but I'm going to take that upside. And they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. And DeOntay Johnson, like I said, if he does drop the ball like once or twice, like he could be, in the doghouse for sure. And other than that, like I said, Jaylen Samuels as a value play, and there are really not much plays to go off of today, which should be exciting though. So look out to see if James Conner is going to be playing or if he's going to not be playing. That's huge. Obviously, that's going to open up Benny Snell, and obviously that's going to open up Jaylen Samuels even more than they already are. Because I think even if he does play, I do think they still have some solid upside. So that's about it. Good luck on this very, very, very ugly, weird slate. Try to, get your Bengals exposure in there. Try to find that one guy. I'm kind of struggling to do it myself, but, it should be a fun slate overall. I think it's really top-heavy. I think there's a lot of top good plays, but find those value plays, and let's win some money on this Monday night game. And, yep, good luck, everybody.